I'm taking one of the easiest walks in the Lake District. Perfect for a cold winter's day. Just under 2 miles, virtually no hills, but in terms of scenic beauty, it's right up there with the best of them. This is Tarn Howes. Beautiful, peaceful, and best of all, open to everyone and really easy to get to. No parking problems or lack of information here. You can enjoy a woodland stroll, stick a coin in a tree and make a wish, and there's no shortage of rocks to bang it in with. See a bit of wildlife. This little chap seemed to follow me all the way round. And you can even relive your childhood. Ta-da! Remarkable. Let's see an action replay of that last jump. Yes, he's landed flat on his heels. That's gonna really hurt in the morning. Little wonder then that this has been a favourite destination for tourists almost since it was created, which is probably not as long ago as you might think. Whilst most of the region's tarns have existed pretty much in their present form since the Lake District was carved out by the receding ice about 20,000 years ago, this one hasn't even reached its 200th birthday.
Tarn Howes is actually man-made, and the man that made it, or rather paid to have it made, since I don't suppose he did a great deal of the work himself, was one James Garth Marshall, the wealthy owner of Monk Coniston Hall.
Before he got to work, this was just a patch of marshy ground, surrounded by a few trees and with 4 small tarns. One of the original tarns still exists today, although few visitors make the effort to seek it out, and quite a few don't even know it exists. This is Rosecastle Tarn. It lies at the end of this narrow path, but is not signed, and most visitors stick to the main track. It is almost as though the National Trust wants to keep it hidden.
There are good reasons for this. This whole area is a site of special scientific interest, and with 500,000 people tramping around the tarn every year, keeping this original tarn hidden is good for the area's biodiversity. It's pretty special though, isn't it?
For centuries, the Tarn Howes area was part of the common grazing land of Hawkshead. But in 1862, Marshall, who had previously been the Member of Parliament for Leeds, used his parliamentary knowledge and the Enclosures Act to take full possession of it, and immediately set about landscaping the area to improve it. He planted spruce, larch and pine on the surrounding hills, and dammed the lower of the 3 tarns to raise the water level, creating the body of water we see today.
The original tarns had wonderfully romantic names.
The lower one, closest to the dam, was apparently known by the grand title of Low Tarn.
The one in the middle was called Middle Tarn. No prizes for guessing what this higher one was called then. Marshall's reason for doing this was not purely aesthetic. It may look very pretty, but what you're actually looking at is an industrial landscape. The industry is forestry. Marshall owned a sawmill a little bit down the fell and he needed some wood.
The tarn and woodland he created satisfied his needs perfectly. The woods around the tarn produced a plentiful supply of his raw material, whilst the tarn itself provided the water to power his mill. The mill was situated in Udale, at the bottom of this steep gorge. It's no longer in existence.
This pleasant little gorge is called Tom Gill, and the waterfall behind me used to be called Tom Gill Waterfall, but Marshall changed it to Glen Mary in honour of his wife at the suggestion of John Ruskin. It's a bit of a smooth talk about John Ruskin.
It was never the intention of Marshall to keep the land private. His landscaping included a path around the tarn, the same one that I'm using today. By the start of the 20th century, it was firmly established as one of the region's most popular beauty spots. One of the reasons why it was so popular was that it was free, which wasn't the case everywhere. A lot of Lakeland's wealthy landowners cashed in on the natural beauty by charging entrance fees on their land. Whether that was Marshall's original intention is not known. If it was, he never got round to setting up the turnstiles. Tarn House has always been free. The tarn soon became popular with swimmers, and in the winter, when it froze readily, skaters. Regular charabanc trips were organised from Ambleside. Tarn House was even used by the railways to advertise holidays in the area. In 1930, the Marshall family put the area up for sale. The National Trust were interested, but since pay and display car parking hadn't been invented, they couldn't afford the £15,000 asking price. Luckily, a local sheep farmer stepped in to save the day, buying the land and managing it on behalf of the National Trust until they could raise the cash. That sheep farmer was called Mrs. Heelis, but you probably know her better by her pen name, none other than Beatrix Potter, the celebrated children's author. It proved to be a good move. For the best part of the last 80 years, the National Trust have managed the land and made improvements to access to minimise the effect that 500,000 visitors a year have on the landscape. It's got a well laid out car park, complete with bird feeding stations, a new toilet block and an information point.
All things considered, I don't think they've done a bad job.
I'm going to finish the walk by turning left out of the car park, crossing the cattle grid and heading for that small hill over there. One short climb later, I'm treated to one of the finest views in the whole of Lakeland. The perfect end to a super afternoon walk.